Well, welcome very much about Mediumship One. So this is I do these workshops. It was my idea to do these like kind of like open workshop time spaces, sharing the space to inform people what my course is about. And this my Mediumship One is really the flagship course of my school, the JP School of Mystical Arts. And I think in mediumship you really have to develop properly in order to really be in a certain level of working with your recipients and also the spirit world. And I think it's a very sacred work. And I've always felt that way from the very beginning. I was very much in awe of the work. And for those who don't know my background, I never even believed in life after death, believe it or not. And I was raised Catholic and didn't believe in that either. But long story short, I came to LA to be a sitcom writer because I'm funny. I used to be. I'm pretty funny. And I was promised a job in LA, and I got to LA, and this shows you the intelligence of the spirit world, by the way. And I was in LA, and the producer, the production company, MTM, said that producer promised that was not truthful to you. We don't accept applicants that way. So I literally was in Los Angeles, not knowing a single soul. I was on a street, and I turned around, and the mountain was Hollywood. I'd never been there before. I thought, is this a joke? Is this some kind of a joke? So I thought, how could I break into that field? And what I did was a lot of different jobs, temporary jobs. Because remember, I didn't know a soul, I didn't know LA, and I wanted to work in sitcom writing, but I didn't know how to break into that. So I started at the beginning. I did a lot of temporary jobs, and it ended up in whether I was working in law firms or hospitals or advertising agencies. I ended up the William Morris Agency. It was a talent agency, and that was swear to God, pulling staples out of contracts 8 hours a day in the basement of the William Morris Agency. It's a talent agency. Not even, by the way, the mailroom like it's supposed to. I was in the basement. So there you go. And again, I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing here? This just doesn't feel right to me. And this is before anything mediumistic or intuitive, right? But I've always had a strong sense of intuition, like all of you have had, otherwise you wouldn't be on this phone call. But a really strong sense of, I guess I got to be here because maybe I'll meet somebody, an agent, who'll get me my script to a production company or something like that. Ended up, I worked there for a long time with different people who'd come in. Brian Lord was one, who is now the top agent in the world, believe it or not, and a couple other people. And I remember with Brian Lord, I said, if we make it one day, as I'm putting staples out of it, Groucho Marx's contract, and we'll remember each other. And he goes, we will. And we have. We have. I've called him up once and say, hey, Brian, remember me? And our lives have changed. But it was that experience that a lady, my supervisor, she said, James, do you want to go see a medium? And I said, what is a medium? And she said, well, he's someone who talks to dead people. And I said, I really don't believe in that sort of thing. I don't know what I believe, but I don't necessarily believe in that. But I'll go anyway. I want to humor her. And as soon as I walked in the door, this gentleman looked at me. He's named Brian Hurst. And he said, you're a medium. And I said, oh, thank you. I thought I was a small. I'm 5'4", so must have done funny. And he goes, the spirit people, James, are going to use you in 2 years' time to help change the consciousness of the planet. And I thought, oh, wow. I just moved here from New York. I landed Fruit and Nuts, California, and I hit pay dirt right here. And okay. But he went on to give an incredible session with names and details of family members I didn't even know till much later on when I validated with my family. And I thought to myself, this is something. And it opened up something within me. And all I can say to you guys is it opened up a knowingness within me. And I thought, I got to explore more of this. This is something I got to explore. So I went to a place called the Bodhi Tree Bookstore in Los Angeles. Some of you might be familiar with it, some not. And it was really the prominent the bookstore for New Age. And they used to let you sit down in these chairs and read if you want to. And I would spend every weekend going there and picking out books from different sections, whether it's life after death, psychic phenomena, UFOs, remote viewing, Edgar Cayce. And I just couldn't get enough. It was like a sponge, and I had to take more of it and I just take it all in. And it just felt this is normal to me, natural. I felt like I found my way home in some strange way. I belonged there. So I started meditating, and the meditation was just to envision the future of me as a producer and me as, when Hollywood was a producer with a script and so forth, which eventually did come true. But that's what I visualized, and having a happy life, a financially successful life, helping people. I always wanted to help people. I always, from a little kid, always wanted to help people in some way. So what happened, I went on to do some temporary jobs, again, some more stuff. I eventually moved to Paramount Studios, where I was now it's a contract supervisor, where I prepared contracts instead of doing staples out of contracts. And they were for TV shows like Arsenio Hall Show and the first Star Trek Next Generation, that sort of thing. And I didn't know anything about well, at that time, I didn't really, again, I was reading books on the subject matter, and meditating on my own. And when I started meditating, I didn't know how to meditate. So I started to visualize a rose, and the rose would open up and I'd sit in the quiet, and these wonderful things would start. I'd feel tingling within me and around me. And I would have these interesting, what happened was I'd see people, everyday people, and I started seeing colors around them, the auric field around them, as I did when I was a child. And I said, God, I used to see them as a child like this. This is very interesting. So I was working at Paramount, and it was 12:20, I'll never forget this, 12:20 in the afternoon. My coworker, Jo Dallas, who was in the cubicle next to mine, she was into astrology, and we talked a little bit about astrology. Again, didn't know much about this stuff. She walks in after lunch, and I see a lady behind her, a dead lady, who looks right at me, just like the Sixth Sense. Stare right at me, I'm like, oh. And she telepathically said to me, "This is my granddaughter. She used to come to my house in Idaho. It was a yellow house with white shutters, and we made a footstool cover together." I was hearing this in my head. As I asked this girl, Jo, I said, "Jo, would you mind asking a question?" And I did. And I told her the things this lady said. I said, "She's right here." She said, "Oh, that's my grandmama. She promised that when she passed over, she'd come back and let me know she was all right." She understood everything I said. So I freaked out, because back then, early 90s, no one really did mediumship. There was George Anderson in Long Island, who did little work out there, but nothing was really known of the subject that was really public. So I freaked out. I ran out of Paramount Studios and never go back again. And went to my apartment, and I was pacing back and forth, because think of it, I was kind of thinking I'm crazy. Oh my God, I see dead people. I don't know, how can I live in this world? I'm not normal, all that stuff that you start thinking. And I know who to call. So I called this man, Brian Hurst, medium, and I told him the problem, the situation. "I'm very upset." He said, "James, calm down." I said, "Well, why?" And he said, "James, don't you remember the prediction about you helping to change the consciousness of the planet?" I'm like, yeah. And he said, "James, that was 2 years ago today. 2 years ago that day." So it shows you the intelligence of that world. And I was like, that really was a relief. And he said, "James, I will help you. I will help develop you." I said, "Would you?" And he said, "Yes." So I stayed at Paramount, but I'd be with Brian every Tuesday night from about 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock or 9:30. And it was called the Development Circle. We used to like-minded people to develop that power within, that soul power, that more than intuition, right? Basic intuition, but then even more so, where you're able to really, you're a soul having a human experience and having that relationship with your soul. So I started having that, and it got better week after week, progressed more and more. And you sit in the quiet, you sit in the silence, and build up that sense of power of your soul. And it is, I tell everybody, my mediumship, that was the best part of my mediumship, was the development part. Because you learn so much as far as who you are as a soul being. And it's not who you think you are, but it's who you are. So in some ways, it gets you from your head to your heart. And it really felt complete. Can I say that? It felt like I've come home. This is my language. It's complete. And then I said for 7 years with Brian, not giving one message, because I wanted to make sure that I was able to, that the information was correct, that I was getting it correct, that it wasn't something I was thinking about. It was something I was feeling. And I had such a strong connection with spirit coming close to me by learning through this development circle, how they come close to you, feeling when they change the field, the energy around you, the auric field changes, how you yourself, your auric field expands, contracts. And those 7 years, the spirit people, my guides and teachers, worked on my spirit body, if you will, my etheric body, my mental body, my physical body. And you feel them as you're working, you feel them working on things. And it's very strange, because I'll try all different ways to open you up and work with you. And I often say the analogy, which I think is great. It's like working with, under, like an engineer would take the hood of a car, open up, and tinker with the engine. It's exactly what it's like. But you have to be patient, which I was. And then after 7 years, I felt I was able to give a message that someone really would understand. And I felt I was okay with that. I had everything it took, the grounding it took. I did the right work, and Brian was my mentor. And I'll tell you then the readings, I did readings for people. First they were friends, then some other strangers, and they understood everything. And it was an amazing experience. And I got to say, everybody, that I sat, and I still do, when I do readings with spirit and I sit in that space, I'm in awe. I sit there in awe. I sit there in a sense of discovery. Wow, what am I going to discover here? Because you become very, very humble when you're doing this work, because that intelligence, and it is the love of the spirit people, that connection of love which never dies, that loving connection, and the love of your recipient who wants to hear from them, and also that love that you have built up for yourself, as far as you are an instrument for the spirit world, and you are solid in who you're being, and it was able to come through. One thing I learned, very, very much so, it's still a part of all my courses, especially Mediumship 1, is you begin, many people think, I'm going to go into this just to talk to dead people. Not, what happens is, it's the development of your soul. You begin to have a relationship with my soul and I, and you begin to really start having a different perspective of life based upon your soul self. Not what you think, not how to please other people. That has nothing to do with it. You'll learn as you go into this course that it's more about who I am. I am who I am. And whatever you think of me is none of my business, because I am who I am. And that's it. And they have to love you for who you are. So that the reading started, the messages, and it became word of mouth. A month ahead, I had booked up twice a day. I did readings. Then it was several months. Then it became a year. Then it became 2 years. And that was all we do, was 2 years ahead. And then producers came from the Unsolved Mysteries, and they wanted to do something with me, did something with me. Then a TV show, The Other Side, some of you might remember that, on NBC, and I did the pilot with that, and it was a spectacular hit with audiences in Las Vegas. That's how they measure these things, Las Vegas, don't ask. And they had me on the show, and I was the #1 guest in that show, and it really opened up the world of that. Fast forward to a producer for me on that show from Larry King. And later on, she asked me if I want to be on the show. And I said, yeah, I just wrote a book. And it's called Talking to Heaven. And she said, okay, well, and I was talking to her, her grandfather came through and told her all these incredible details. And she was freaked out. She called up her mother to find out if the details were accurate. And she called right back and she said, what are you doing tonight? And I said, nothing. And it was December, I think, December 7th, 1997, I think it was. And she said, do you want to be on the show? And I said, I'd love to. Now, think about the intelligence again of that world, that a show like Larry King is booked up months ahead. They just happened to have an opening that night. And my book, the initial copy was 6,000. It went from 6,000 to 600,000 in less than a month. And it was, that broadcast started at 7 o'clock specific time on that Friday. The CNN bureaus around the world did not finish until 3 p.m. Sunday. People are still calling in. So it was the opening of mediumship, really, to a large global level in a television way. And anyway, that started everything for me as far as the subject matter of mediumship, being well known with all that sort of thing. And I just felt as oh, by the way, the spirit people said to me when I was developing, they said, if you will work with us, we'll always take care of you. You will never be of need. And I've never been of need. You know, I don't live an exclusive, you know, big life, but I don't live in squalor either. I live a nice, decent life. And I think when you do things the right way, no matter what field one's in, if you live accordingly and you become responsible for your thoughts, your words, and your deeds, how you respect people, how you interact with people, and take responsibility for that, I think good things happen, because like attracts like. So I wanted to invite all of you to begin this journey of Mediumship 1. It's a certification course. The reason I made a mediumship certification, I want people to take it very seriously. The one thing, awareness of self, I want to talk to you again about how to have that relationship with your soul. and how to properly ground yourself. There are so many people out there who do spiritual work, and they're so out of it. Oh, I swear I've had people like this. So it's a matter in the course that you do proper grounding. We're all electrical beings, and we need to be grounded to the earth. So there are many, many techniques to be centered and grounded, and that you use every day in your life. There's certain techniques you use every day, and as you're driving a car, as you're going to a supermarket, as you're interacting with someone, you can ground yourself, and I call running your energy, learning how to run the energy, cosmic energy, earth energy, and really become aware of energy within the body and all around you, okay? One of the most important things in mediumship is what we call sitting in the power. Sitting in the power is we sit in a development circle. And in this circle, you learn to get in touch with your soul power, the prana, the energy of life, and build that prana, build that sense of self. One of the byproducts, which I love about mediumship, is you learn to have a soul awareness. Like I said earlier, my soul and I. And it is not just mediumship development, it's soul development. There's no way your life will not change without you developing your soul. And it's having a new relationship, for many of you, a new relationship with who you are. I've had many students say to me, medium 2, medium 3, wow, I didn't know who I was before. I feel more confident with who I am. I really know who I am now. It's not what people think, who I am is who I am. It's not what they think I am. I can be myself. I have my power. So a byproduct is your own soul development. And that also will help you to change your perspective of the world you're living in, as well as the choices that you make in everyday life. Because I believe life is a series of choices, and choices are based upon either love or fear. And fear is only of this human world. It's not of the spirit world. So it's opening yourself up to being in that space of that this is a truth of love. Fear is false ego appearing real. Just letting go of that ego self and getting to your soul self. And that's really one of the greatest byproducts of mediumship. So I really have this as meticulously crafted, each exercise and on your journey. I wish I had this when I was starting, because it really would have helped me. But I don't know any other, and I've looked around, I don't know any other course that's so in depth as this. Right. So often I say when you go into a course like this, or any course you take, whether it's mine or someone else's, or whatever, every time, whether you're watching someone on television or you're taking a course online, feel within yourself, your soul. Your soul's language is intuition. Intuition means into the soul. So throughout your life, everybody, whether you take this course or not, you've got to have a feeling of that, what's the right choice for you, love or fear. So like this person in my life is either good to me or they're not good for me. Feel it in your gut. Go with your gut, not with your head, with your heart, right? Go with the gut and get your first impression. That is your soul's calling. Your soul is telling you, this is right for you, this is not right for you. The more you practice your intuition, you do every day, different ways, many different ways. In old days, when the phone would ring, who's on the other end of the phone? You can still do it. Maybe you get an email. Try to intuit what the email says before you open it, right? Don't let the title throw you. There are different ways where you can intuit. A bank of elevators, which one's going to come first? Which one do I feel comes first? So the more you practice that feeling, that sense, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So the course includes a lot of that, okay? Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you guys do want to take advantage of this opportunity to get 50% off the Mediumship 1 course, once again, head on over to the JVP School of Mystical Arts website. You can't miss it. It's the top banner. The sale is not going on for that long because it is going to end at the end of this month. So we really wanted to reach out to the folks that were a part of our community. Take the first step into your own mediumship and your own gifts.
Yeah, and there are a lot more exercises kind of like this. I love this one, but it shows that you're capable. And anything that if you weren't, then you're blocking something. So we go through all the blocks that you might have. And many times it's fear-based. But thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it.